Hello, everyone, to a new, definitely different podcast. And today I am joined by the lovely Julia Sotas Mattis. Julia, welcome.
Hi, Evie. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome, and thank you for being here. And one of the major reasons why I've invited you to go on is I'm actually hosting a class that you're doing. It's like an online class, and it's called Organizing When You Hate Organization. And it was very interesting that you reached out to me to host this class, because I was like, I don't think I need help with organization. I'm pretty organized in my life. So what happens is I did a little bit of research. You gave us, the people at the back of the class, to get so organized. You gave us a little bit of homework and things to look at. And you invited us to listen to a little piece from Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here, who are creators and founders of the Tools of Access Consciousness. And they were talking about clutter a lot, decluttering. I listened to previous classes of yours on this, and I came to, I wouldn't even say I came to the conclusion. I came to the, it came to light that I'm actually pretty disorganized when it comes to my paperwork, my bookkeeping, even clutter in my head. So I was like, there is something here.
Yeah.
And let's start with that. What can you say about what do you mean by clutter? And what do you mean by clutter, and what does clutter create in your world?
Cool. Well, all great questions. And, for me, I have had, a world where clutter was very right. Like I felt very cozy when I was in a messy place. And I like to have a messy place. And I didn't have great, accounting or anything like that. And what I realized was if I was going to actually have a bigger life and if things were actually going to grow, I would have to get organized. And organization is just an amazing topic because it brings up so much, exactly like you're saying. And I have a quote by Dane here. Where is this quote? He says, having a clean, clear life is a platform to jump off into magic. And it's like, it doesn't actually work to have more in your life if you're not organized. And it's not that you have to do all the organization yourself. It's just that it's like you can hire people to help you organize. You can create, people, you could trade with people. But it's like, I just realized that if I don't get organized in my life, my life is never going to grow. And so since I have started using these tools and decluttering, and I used the tool from Access Consciousness called the bars, that really cleared some major points of view that I had. And I realized that I was creating a future of being a hoarder rather than a future of more possibility. So I had to do I used a lot of different access tools to turn the ship around because I was really heading towards being a hoarder.
Yeah. So you're talking about hoarding with things in your house. Do you have different examples of where you hoard things or clutter? We have already too in the house, and for me in my bookkeeping, you have different ways as well.
Yeah, well, like you said at the beginning, Evie, in your head.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the saying, if you love something, let it go, and if it comes back to you, it's yours?
No.
Okay, that's in English. There was a guy in the 60s, and that was his whole philosophy. And that's something that the founder of Access, Gary Douglas, really adopted. Like, he was like, you know, that's a great philosophy. It's like, if you love something, don't hold on to it. Let it go. And if it wants to come back to you, it will, but like never have the necessity of it coming back to you. And
now I can hear it. Like I could literally not hear or understand what you were saying. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for repeating it and explaining it.
Yeah, you're welcome. So like we literally hoard people. Like we think that we have to keep our relationships intact the way that they are, and that's not going to create a great relationship, because if you have the point of view that I have to have this person in my life no matter what, then that person can treat you in whatever way, you can treat them in whatever way. And it's like, it doesn't actually create a place where it's like you're honored to have that person in your life. They are honored to have you in their life, and like you are actively creating greater and having more with each other. Then it just becomes this place where it's like, yeah, we're together, and you know, everything in the relationship just dies. And that's a form of clutter. That's a form of hoarding. It's like I had to realize with my husband that I have to let him go. Like if there's somebody out there who is going to be better for him than me, is going to create more in his life than me, is going to be more for his kids than I have been, it's like I have to let him go and go be with that person rather than spending my energy keeping him with me. And then we do these things to break the other person down. We secretly gaslight them, or you know, subtly infuse doubt and fear into their world to make them think that they're less, because if they realize they're more, they might leave us. And that's dark material, but it's the way that pretty much 95% of relationships are built on that principle without people even realizing it. So that's a form of hoarding relationships.
That's true. I actually have seen people do it with me. And I have, looking back on it, I have done it with other people as well.
Yeah, we all do.
Definitely.
We all do. I mean, that's just what we're taught in this reality. Yeah.
There was something about when you said, there was something there when you were talking about like hoarding with people, hoarding relationships. It's like you make them more or less like the right person to have in your life, so you cannot really let go of it. So one of the things that I've noticed, if I make someone right, or like I put them on a pedestal, I actually, and you actually touched that briefly, you cannot see anymore how they treat you. And even if they start treating you badly, you will make yourself doubt you, and you will make yourself less, and you still won't see it when you kind of like make yourself like a bit stupid, and you make yourself stupid and blind. And you're kind of like what I've seen. You kind of start like you start avoiding dealing with, you make your world smaller. Like I would even say, like when I see it myself, how I respond, like I would even like go into like a little paranoia if I do that. Could you speak to that, if we do that not only with relationships but like with everything in our life, like even like organizing finances, organizing
with
house?
with business, it's pretty much insane to think that your business can grow if you don't do monthly accounting. Like it just doesn't work. And my business was like the same. And then I'm like, I've got to do monthly accounting. I've got to know exactly how much I'm spending and making each month. And then when I started to do that, things were able to grow and become greater. But there's something about knowing your financial situation that allows it to grow. It just, if you're kind of going like this, or you're like, it's too much work to add up my income. It's too much work to add up my credit
Overwhelming.
card bills. It's overwhelming. It's like, then you're really not ever going to grow, because it's part of being, it's part of what we call, there's a phrase in access consciousness called being an adult of consciousness, because we sort of think that like consciousness is very childlike and very spiritual and very happy-go-lucky. But there's a true magic of consciousness that you really have to step into as an adult of consciousness, and that's where the true magic begins. And it doesn't mean you lose your childlike wonder or joy. It just means like you have to have a certain platform to jump off into magic. And so part of creating that platform, you got to deal with some things that might not be fun. And so so adding up everything that you make every month and adding up everything that you spend every month is a huge foundation for allowing things to grow. And it's a commitment to like being in business. And when you aren't doing that accounting, you're not really showing the universe that you actually care about your business. So that's another thing, is just the willingness to actually do the accounting, to know what's going on. And a lot of times people really do want to go like this with the accounting, because they are spending more than they're making, and they're just like, oh, I don't want to know. But if you do know, and you actually have that awareness, it can turn around really quickly. And I've seen that happen for a lot of people that I've worked with, and myself.
Right. Wow. And so I love this. Thank you so much. And I'm sure for people watching right now or in the future, it might be quite recognizable when there's like something that's like in front of you that really needs to be dealt with. It's your finances, it's like cleaning your house, it's like anything. And you're like overwhelmed. You have all these things like, well, when am I going to do that? Like, I don't have time, I work too much. Like all these very reasonable, excuses to why you can't. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Well, it's part of this is like a commitment to coming out of the gray matter that most people live in, that they don't even realize they live in. And it's like, when you've lived in a gray world forever and you start to have this, and organization isn't the only source. That's not what I'm trying to say here, but it's been a huge gift to me. But it's like when you are doing clutter, or when you're doing, lack of accounting, or when your things, your finances are messed up, or things like that, you're actually destroying your future. And it's like, you've got to look at what kind of future do I want to have? And what choices would I have to make today in order to have the future that I would like to have? And it's not right or wrong. Like, I'm not like the organizing advocate, but I do know that when you get organized, things just begin to change. And it really is a commitment to being alive on planet Earth, or thriving, rather than trying to avoid life. Because all of those things are trying to avoid life. They're trying to avoid the future. It's when you're trying to avoid success. And it's like the little choices that you make today create what shows up 3 years from now. Weird to think about. And we don't like to think about it in those terms, because we want to think that life happens to us. But life doesn't happen to us. It's those choices that you make today. That's what's going to be your life in 3 years. And I made some great choices 3 years ago, and things have expanded in my life. And I also made some shit choices. Usually, I think by that time I've been doing quite a bit of access, so I made some great choices too, and some shit choices. And it's like, that's what has showed up in my life. So did life happen to me, or did the choices that I made 3 years ago create the life that I have today?
Yeah.
So it's not a rightness or a wrongness. It's just a matter of how much success do you want to have, and that's all that it comes down to.
This brings a lot of cool. It's like a whole different way of going with your life. Totally different. It brings up a lot of. It might bring up a lot of, like, for people like, oh my God, like my choices, and
it is.
It's like the bad news, and
yeah,
it's like bad news and good news.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like the worst news you've ever received in your whole life, and also like the greatest news, because everything that's ruined and sucks in your life is based on choices you made to ignore things, avoid things, not realize what the things you're saying to people are creating, not realize what the things that you are doing are creating, the things that you're avoiding, or whatever. It's like what you have right now is based on what you were doing like 3 years ago. That's an estimation, and it changes a little bit, but that's a really good basic rule of thumb. And it's like what choices can you make today to have the future you'd like to have? And that's where it gets awesome, because it's sort of like, oh my God, like my choice not to be kind to that person is what is creating me having less money today. You know, I've had to look at that in myself. It's like there were a lot of places where I realized I actually thought I was being nice to people because I was like Miss Nice Lady, but secretly there was an undertone of not being nice, and that actually destroyed the future, because everything is energy. So you just, and the more and more I realize the great parts of me and also the cruel parts of me, the more I have choice with it, and I don't judge the cruel parts. But it's like if you're going to ignore the cruel parts, they're going to come out and destroy your future. So it's also a part of acknowledging everything that you are. It's kind of a big, humongous conversation we're having right now. It's kind of like,
I love it. Because like even like ignoring, because this is very recognizable for me as well, where like you kind of like ignore all the evil in you, like all the gnarly bits and parts and pieces of you. So this is like also probably where when you're like not willing to look at it, you're like creating clutter in your life, in your head, because it's like a part that you just totally do not want to look at. Because it's very interesting what you just said about like, so, you know, it's the good news, it's the bad news, it's the good news. Because like the bad news is that you can no longer blame other people for your problems. And this is what kind of is quite common, and I used to be so good in that, like Miss Victim, Miss Drama, Miss Victim. And I was really good in like blaming, shaming people for, you know, how my life was, and never wanted to be in control, never wanted to be in charge. And I totally lost my train of thought. I had a point where I wanted to go with that.
Yeah, but well, it's the good news. I mean, it is. It's like horrifying when you realize some of the messes. But then it's also the greatest news you will ever receive in your entire life if you realize that there's nothing you can't have now in the future if you get clear to make greater choices. So you,
because you're actually pretty powerful.
Yeah. It's a big deal. It's an amazing kind of thing.
Wow. This is not where I expected where this conversation was going to go. And I'm a little bit gobsmacked right now.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff that you touched with this. Yeah. So it's like really like organizing. You're like organizing in everyday choices is basically like organizing is like creating a future.
It is. It's creating a future where everything works. And right now, there's a whole lot that doesn't work. And what if you had a future where everything worked?
Can you say a bit more about, like, what do you mean where everything works? What is that?
Well, it's a space where ease becomes more valuable than suffering.
So you don't have to work hard for it.
No, it's just based on the choices you made. Yeah. And the choices are not hard to make. It's usually where people get caught up is they're not willing to be different and they want to have some form of suffering going on. It's not the choices that are hard to make. Choice is not hard, but not suffering is not something people believe in.
Wow, that is so true. Wow, I can see it. I can see it with me right now with my paperwork, and I have seen it also like with I've been living like with a lot of different people throughout my life, and like lived alone as well. And I've always been pretty organized in the spaces where I live. And then when I was living with people that weren't organized and was like how the kitchen was like made, like where all the stuff in the kitchen went, was like pretty not like very supporting efficiency. Like I like to have like a kitchen where everything is like made for efficiency, so you can like cook with total ease. And then I've noticed that when that wasn't there, I could also see where the parts in their life that were hard, the kind of like the disorganization was actually supporting a hard knock life.
Yeah.
Well, this is bringing a lot of light bulbs in my head.
Isn't it powerful?
Yeah.
It's so freakishly powerful.
Wow. Because I'm gonna be a bit vulnerable here, and who knows, it might apply to everybody else out there. So I've grown a lot with my business, and I must say, like in the last half year, it's like it's not growing. It's not going backwards, but it's not growing. And I wonder if I really tackle this thing with my bookkeeping, what can grow then? I'm actually wondering, because I don't know. I'm going to just have to do
it. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Evie. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, I think we're like pretty cool with this conversation. We touched a lot of different things, and I'm going to add your information where people, I think I've already added it, where people can like reach out to you, your website, and if people are like interested in this thing of like really tackling this organizing and you need help, this class actually might be for you, organizing when you hate organization. So I'm going to add that link as well. And have a wonderful day out there wherever you are, and have fun with organization.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Evie, and thank you everybody listening.
Bye.